Hi everyone, welcome to I'm a Recruiter podcast. I'm your host Prafula Deori and I'm thrilled to have you with us today. I'm a Recruiter is more than just a podcast. It's a movement by talent acquisition professionals for talent acquisition professionals. We are here to shake things up and help 100K recruiters evolve from a traditional role to a trusted advisor. Our vision is to build a most influential global community for TA professionals and you are at the heart of it. If you are getting value from our content, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, share, and let us know what you think in the comment section. Let's make this community together. So with this, it's time to welcome our guest. So today we have a privilege of hosting a brilliant mind in the AI space, Kowshik. Kowshik has over 6+ years of working experience across cutting-edge areas like trading, autonomous vehicle, CRM, multiple different things. Currently, he is CEO at Framewise.ai and was also a founding member of Blue Avenir. And IIT Madras graduate, Kowshik has deep-root passion for AI innovation, have published 2 patents and developed multiple revenue-generating products. So definitely, I'm really excited to have more and more discussion. So we will be taking a fascinating journey through Kaushik's life, like from his earlier days to schooling to what was like growing up in his hometown to academic and culture of IIT Madras. We also try to explore what was like to be a student and uncover some of the story throughout his career across different companies like Fractal, Ola Electric, his ventures like Reinforcement, Blue Avenir, and now Framewise. So we are really excited, Kaushik. So welcome to I Am Recruiter podcast. Really grateful for your time. And before we start asking you questions, so do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Prafula. So, yeah, I'm Kowshik. I have close to 6 years of experience in the developing AI products, and I worked in several ventures in different capacity. But the most three recent experiences completely, I put myself in a product innovation role, and I've developed a lot of products from testing in the market in the 0 to 1 journey. So, apart from that, I love running. I love watching some great movies, and I'm looking forward to this podcast with Prafula.
Sure. Thank you so much for the nice intro, Kaushik. So can you share a bit about where you grew up and what your early days were like, right? What impact did your schooling and have on you in general?
Absolutely. So I'm born and brought up in I would say, a comfortable household. My dad was an executive engineer working in the public works department. And since he's a government official, I was born in a little above middle class family. I had good exposure to a lot of, worked in different places in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So I had exposure to a lot of different cultures. So apart from that, my dad is also an engineer. So he has the deep rooted understanding of mathematics and engineering in specific has been there right from the beginning in our childhood. And on top of that, my brother, his name is Shashank. He's also an entrepreneur. And he is that one brilliant guy in the house who try to push things, who try to create that nice path for you. He is one of the early family member in our entire the extended family to crack IIT, and which again kind of motivated me, inspired me towards getting into the IIT. And I have a very interesting fact. I have a twin. He works in London right now, but I have a twin. So the childhood was not very similar to a lot of people. Being a twin is a very different thing. And also my mom is a housewife. Though she's a housewife, she's a very entrepreneurial in nature. And that's where we believe our entrepreneurial spirit came from. Whether it is my brother or me, our entrepreneurial spirit kind of we inherited from our mom. So though she's a housewife, she went on a lot of entrepreneurial ventures. Some failed, some succeeded. So that's, if I had to put it in a simple way, I had a very exciting and interesting childhood, like every other. But I have those few extra things in my childhood which have prompted me toward this journey of
Awesome.
entrepreneurship.
Sure. Great for sharing that, Kaushik. So you also mentioned that like you were born and brought up in various parts of Andhra. So which are some of the places you have been during your
Yes.
childhood? Like again, the reason why I was asking, because most of the public sector people have to transfer into multiple different places and their children have to go to multiple different schools as well, make new friends as well.
Yes.
So how was your journey during the school days?
Yeah, my dad, of course, used to travel through different districts in Andhra, but then we kind of revolved between three different districts: East Godavari, West Godavari, and Krishna. Now, after bifurcation, they named different districts, but these are the three districts that my dad kind of covered in his journey. Till sixth class, sixth standard, we were basically moving around different schools, and till I think sixth standard, the transitions won't be too heavy, right? Transition from one school to the other school, maybe you would need to find new friends. I would essentially put myself in the category of overly extrovert, so
Okay.
it wasn't very hard for me to make friends when I go to new schools. And I have a permanent friend in the name of my twin. So it's like going from school to school has been very easy because I have a guy who is following me all the way who also looks like me. So it's easy.
So are you both identical twins?
Identical twins, yeah, we are identical twins.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but then after seventh standard, then the serious stuff comes into place where we are already in Andhra. There is a huge motivation for students and especially parents to put their kids in these IITs and NITs.
Yes.
So for
Yes.
that reason, there are few set of schools who already start these programs to give this early foundation in the early days, like 8th standard, 7th standard itself. So that's how we came across this interesting school called or the chain of schools called KKR, Dr. KKR Gautam Gandham School. right? So once you are sucked into that school, it's like whether you change the schools in one place to other place, the kind of the program doesn't change too much. And then after that, I joined the schools, and after that, I kind of joined the boarding because it's much harder for me to continue when if my dad is moving from place to place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So after that, I joined boarding schools, and yeah, that's how schooling has been. The transitions has.
And how were you both as a student during your school days?
I think I wasn't the brightest in the lot. I wasn't brightest at all, actually. I was always in the last few ranks in the class. I was always, when someone asked me after clearing IITs, when some of the parents asked me, what was your rank when you're doing your 8th standard or 10th standard, I usually tell them, it's always 1, 2, and 3, but from the backwards. So, kind of, yeah, I was extremely naughty kid. I used to do all kinds of crazy stuff. But I think that has contributed significantly towards my entrepreneurial journey, retrospectively. Right? Because as a kid, I was chaos. My brain works in 100 different directions. There is no structure to it. There is no discipline to it, right? And then that really prompted me to think the same in the business as well. This is one of the things that my earlier company, where I was a founding member, my CEO used to always tell me that you are the chaos, and in this world of chaos, you need to beat it again by chaos. Like you need to think radically to some extent delusionally to find the solutions to these problems, right? I think my early naughty days with almost no discipline have really helped me to become who I am right now.
Thanks for sharing. And definitely everyone dream of joining IIT or giving those entrance tests, right? Even during my post 11, 12, I am from Assam, and in Assam, the awareness were there, but preparation awareness were not much there, right? So because of that, I think people still lack much of IITians from those part, I would say Northeast, because the awareness still is not as much as different parts of India, I would say. Also, when you got into that school, right? So the program started as per the plan, and because of which you were able to crack the IITs, or how was it like?
So in terms of awareness, you are absolutely right. I feel that IIT exam is not a very difficult exam, to be honest. All you need to have is the right mindset, right guidance to
Yep.
it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
if you expose a lot of students, potential students, to this awareness and to this attitude that you need to have to crack this IIT. I mean, if let's say tomorrow, if all the students across Northeast, Gujarat, every state students, every people from every walks of life who has different prosperity levels, if all of them are exposed to the kind of awareness I am exposed to, I'm pretty sure I can't crack IIT. It's like I think awareness plays very important role
Yes.
in this whole journey. And luckily, I am exposed to it quite early in the life. And also, I have someone who cleared IIT, not just cleared IIT, he kind of topped IIT. He was my brother. He ranked like 28th rank in the entire IIT exam, year 28. So this kind of gave me that initial awareness that okay, there exists an IIT, and if you get into IIT, you will get into a great jobs after that. Which is again, I would revisit those thoughts if I have to do it now, because it's not about IIT anymore. It's not about the college that you're studying anymore. But back in those days, yes, 2011, 2010, that's where I had that first-hand experience in what would happen if you get into an IIT, right? Because my brother is already in IIT Bombay. So, and that's on the awareness part. But on the other side, again, I wasn't again the brightest kid in the lot. I was my brother has done significantly well, but I lack a lot of foundation because I wasn't studying very well in my still +1. I wasn't studying very well. I was very bad at the academics, right? But when I was in the +2, I kind of realized, okay, now I have to do something with my life, and that's when I kind of did really well because of the planning and the attitude that I had when clearing these IIT exams, right? So I didn't focus on all the subjects. I focused on a specific subject. Like chemistry is my focus back then. I know a lot of people hate chemistry, but then chemistry has a unique advantage that you don't need to practice it a lot. You just need to by heart it a lot. And with the limited amount of time, in just 1 year, I know that I need to crack IIT. I was running behind compared to all my peers. So I had to choose chemistry because in 1 year you can just by heart as much as you can. And I choose very specific topics in maths and physics, where again you need to solve a lot of questions to go and clear exams in IIT, right? So I choose those topics where you don't need to practice a lot of questions. If you have a good understanding of the theory and you have solved a limited set of problems, then you can go ahead and solve the problem. So I think that part as well have played a very significant role in my life. So far is that I can plan through things. I can see what is the lowest hanging fruit, the minimum effort that I can put right now to get the maximum marks, right? That was my focus because I had a limited time. So
Yes.
I think that's planning and also significantly awareness. And also I must tell luck, right? Luck is also plays a very important role. People tend to believe luck doesn't play any role in IIT exams. I think it does. Probably with 3 questions that have luckily that appeared in my exam that which I've already prepared, I can change the entire. I probably might have not get into an IIT if those 3 questions doesn't come up. So there's a huge luck factor as well. But things which are in my control, awareness and planning for what you're good at.
Yes. And since you have an identical twin and like your brother, I was very average student, below average, I would say, in general, right? So when you are an identical within your house, one of your brother is like quite studious or like he ranked very well. What kind of, were you also in some kind of pressure from internal factor as well as from family side or like from peer side? What kind of pressure did you had as a student back those days?
I would say the pressure would be there. Of course, there is no question. If I say there is no pressure, I would be just lying. So there would be pressure. But then, thanks to my parents, they try to always ease this pressure by basically telling it's okay to not get into these colleges. It's okay to fail, right? That's the kind of pressure that's taken away from my head, from my shoulders, which is what happening even now, right? I have a brother who have done like he was a CTO of your very big company. You would still say, yeah, he's been overachieving all his life, and so far he's still overachieving, right? And then for someone like me to again go back to the same journey and then entrepreneurship and startup journey is not a simple journey. You need to handle a lot of pressures, and if you have a peer pressure on top of that, that's even more in your family. So it's all, I think, how the family also supports you in this journey. So my mom, again, she again eases this pain by telling it's okay to fail, and also till +1 I was failing. I was a failing student. I wasn't a winner, right? So failing is an easy thing for me. So I wouldn't take too much pain in failing.
Okay. And thanks for sharing that, because not many people talk about failing these days, right? Because like all of people generally see when you achieve the success, but people doesn't see the failure behind. How many failures you had to go through to get that success in, right? Just since you have talked about failure, even I was a bad student, like below average. So even I have failed multiple times. I got a couple of backlogs as well during engineering days as well. But again, like I would say those failures have shaped me well where I am today, right? And because of those failure of yours might have shaped you well for today to think in a right way, right? Great. So moving to the next question, how or what was the life in IIT, right? Because we all dream to have those 4 years of life in IIT. So how was your life in IIT Madras?
I would say almost magical. It's the time, if I had to bring back if I had to go back and live 4 years in my life, that would be just those IIT days. It is near magical in terms of the kind of friends that you meet. Imagine all these fellows have cleared IIT, and they've all, to some extent, at least by the standard of maths and physics and chemistry, they are smart, right? And each of them are very ambitious, want to do something in their life, want to push or disrupt things, the status quo, right? And when you get to meet these people and understand who they are, why they are doing this, you would be forced to motivate yourselves. You would be highly motivated to do a lot of things. So that's why I usually tell my juniors or some of my colleagues as well that IITs don't teach engineering. It is the whole concept of being in this IIT is that you are surrounded by highly motivated and highly exceptionally doing well. Students are doing exceptionally well, right? So I think I've seen that during my IIT days. A lot of my friends, some of them became multimillionaires, some of them some really become trying with their full capacity to change things that people have not seen through right now. All of them are inspiration, great inspiration for me when I was doing my bachelor's. And also in terms of professors, they've always been very supportive to ventures. And especially in IIT, there is something called IITM Research Park. So I am the most frequent visitor to IIT Research Park with my friends. So the idea of the IITM Research Park is that you can basically walk in with an idea, and then IITM Research Park would support you in this entire entrepreneurial journey. For example, Aether is an product of IITM Research Park. Aether is
Sorry,
founded.
which one?
Aether, the scooter,
Okay.
electric scooter company. And there are lots of product companies that came out of the IITM Research Park. And I get to go to this IITM Research Park. Founders who have done exceptionally well. People figuring out companies. And during my early days, maybe in my second year, third year, I already started coming up with different ideas. Some of them are very stupid if I have to think back. Back in those days, yeah, you can just come up with an idea, go there and get a nice feedback around it, and maybe even get funded a bit to implement your MVP. So these are kind of exposures that IIT gave me, which again prompted me towards starting my entrepreneurial journey. That early exposure is again came in advantage in my situation.
So once you joined IT, were you kind of a techie guy from day one itself, or you took some time to understand which side you want to go ahead once you joined?
So one good thing is that again the exposure played a very important role because my brother, he is one of the very few early adopters of AI and contributed really well to some of the open source AI packages like PyTorch is a very important AI package people use. And then Shashank, my brother, is one of the early adopter or early contributor to that, right? So I had this early the first mover advantage in the AI space. So right in the second year of my bachelor's and third year of my bachelor's, I started working on a lot of AI freelancing projects in the space of AI. The second year and third year I already went around, and because of these freelancing activities of worked on different use cases, I'm exposed to what AI could do in the early days of my bachelor's itself. And after that, I went around to do a lot of competitions. Right, I've done close to 30 competitions. Initially failed a lot of them, but then later, once you kind of get a grip of how these competitions work and so on, you tend to do really well. So I went to a lot of competitions. So I kind of never took a very conscious decision that I want to do AI. It's just I started picking it up because there is a buzz around it, early buzz because of my exposure. So I picked it up, and then after that, there is no looking back. I was just doing AI day in, day out. So, and also because of my competitions, I went around a lot of freelancing projects. I never really had to sit for the placements in college because I had replacement offers right from these different internships and different competitions that I went around across India. So, but yeah, there is no conscious decision. It just happened.
Okay. So another question which I have is like you have gone through multiple different freelancing projects, you have also gone through multiple different competitions. So it's always good to put yourself into those kind of situations, right, where you are not very comfortable, so that you can learn faster, right? Or in one of the discussion, you also mentioned that you have built many MVP products as well, right? So can you also tell a little bit about yourself in those areas?
Yeah. So in the usual product journey, it always starts with an hypothesis, right? In product journey, it always starts with an hypothesis, and then essentially you want to test the hypothesis in the real market. So there are multiple ways to test it, and none of these ways is correct or wrong. So either it will be basically a mix of these, all of them together, right? So one way to test in the market is go and start talking to your users in an openly, keep it very wide and open in terms of interviewing your candidate, your potential customers. You make a hypothesis that this customer will pay for this product because he has this ABC problem. So now you go and check if the ABC problem is real. So that you could go around and test the hypothesis by talking to a lot of customers. So that is one way, talking to your potential customers. The second way is, so you have a hypothesis on how this product, what is this problem and what is the solution. So what you do is you kind of prepare a product, a simple product, which essentially tests hardly 3 or 4 core values that you want to deliver, right? So these are what we call core value propositions. So you don't solve for the entire product. You don't build the entire product because that would take you forever to build an entire product that works with the customer. You build a small product, just enough to solve that one problem. And then how you solve the problem is by creating very simple MVP is basically a product, right? A simple MVP which you could go and put in the user hands and see how user is liking it or not. So interviewing is one thing where you ask if the problem is real to get an understanding, but then if the customers are ready to pay or not, if the customers are ready to adopt or not, you would only know by actually building a product around it, right? So, and there is no right solution. You have to do both of them together. So in my journey so far, I take great pride, or I love this journey, the 0 to 1 journey a lot, because I get to make an hypothesis on a simple hypothesis, a simple thesis on the market. I can see that there is a nice white space, that there would be a need for a product, a need for something that it can scale really good, right? And then I go ahead and see what are those 3 or 4 things I could do today in a week or in 3 days that would go and test this problem, whether this problem fits, whether the solution fits there, and also see if the customers are willing to pay for it. So that you are testing the product viability, solution viability, and also the financial viability. So basically business viability and technical viability.
Okay.
You're basically testing these 2 things at one single go. And if the customers say it's not good, it's all right. You only spent like a week or a couple of weeks to build this.
Yeah.
So that's how I keep on iterating, keep on building products in my entire, like so far I've built close to 10 or 12 MVPs that I went around testing in the market and see, and a lot of them faced a really bad backlash, which is a part of the game. So that's my experience with MVPs and how I look at MVPs.
So how do you keep yourself motivated? Like, because like once you build any product or MVP, you become kind of attached to it sometime, right? Because in your mind, it is the best product you are building for the community or for the society. But when you go out into the market, you get harsh feedback.
Yes.
So how did you push yourself?
So when more and more you do entrepreneurship, more and more you be in this journey, you won't essentially learn new things. Whatever things that you have learned before, things will just get simple, right? Whatever new things learn. For example, MVP is a concept that I've learned on the paper during my bachelor's. But after doing it a couple of times, I really learned what MVP is, what are the things that MVP has, right? For example, pricing strategy. Like you would have learned pricing strategy a lot. There is a whole theory about pricing strategies around products. That would be so complex, that would be so difficult for you to implement. But after going through a couple of iterations, you will not learn anything new. It's just whatever you learn there has to become simple, right? So you are right. In the early stages in my career, in building these MVPs, I'm extremely attached to these ideas that I've built. I'm not willing to listen to people who are saying it's wrong. It is right for the wrong reason, actually. So you will need to be delusional enough to build your ideas. But then in the earlier stages in your career, you would be so attached for reasons that doesn't make sense. You would need to be attached to the product for the reasons that make sense, where other people don't see, right? So if there are no reasons, whether you see or others see, then you shouldn't do this. But if there are strong reasons which you believe, if others people doesn't believe, that's the point where you need to stick to an idea. So in a way, I can build MVPs very easily, but then whether I should stick to it or not is a question that becomes very clear now. So yeah, in the beginning of my career, if people say that I need to get out of that idea, I'd be too over sticky. But later, after evolving myself as an entrepreneur, if people say that this is not a great idea, you shouldn't stick to it, I wouldn't actually stick to it. But later, once you again be more and more into this space, but now I am at a phase where if other people say that, okay, you shouldn't stick to this, I would actually go back and evaluate whether I should stick to it or not. Like I will be more reasonable to myself and see if the reasons which I have today are the ones which are standing. And that's how the evolution happens in this journey.
Yes. Great. Thanks for sharing that. So other question which I have is, you had quite a journey throughout different industries, from startup to major tech companies like Fractal and Ola Electric. What key lesson have you taken out or learned from these experiences you had?
So one thing is that I've stayed extremely close to technology, right? I'm never married to the problem, but I was always married to the technology. So for that reason, whichever industry it is, as long as my tech stack has been in the AI space and so on, I was comfortable moving from one space to the other space. But then one of the key takeaways that I had today, and I take extreme pride, and also on the other side, some of the things I should have done, which I feel regret. One, I'll start with a positive note, which is there is a good, people tend to indicate or people tend to position themselves as in someone who could do all, right? Basically, master of none, jack of all, right? Initially, I think in the careers, you shouldn't do that. Initially, in your career, you should focus on one single thing and become an expert, a real expert, where other people would come and seek advice from you, kind of expert, right? So how it helps is that it's not the expertise which helps you, it's the attitude which helps you at the later stage, right? So these people who essentially want to dig deep into a particular problem, these are the hedgehogs who go really deep and look at the problem in all directions and see what is that one small thing which you change, which you improve, which would make the entire process much more smooth, right? So I'll just give an example. In trading, I was implementing this set of, initially I used to solve the trading problem by using all kind of algorithms available in the AI space. But then later I realized that I need to be expert of this one single thing called, that's when I jumped into reinforcement learning, right? So in the trading, it's okay if you're just accurate. You don't have to be 95% accurate. Even if you're accurate by 1%, so if your accuracy is 51, so out of 100 bets, if you win 51 bets and if you lose 14 bets, you would be still profitable, given that you are consistent about this 51% accuracy. So you are now playing with this one small margins, and you can only reach that small margin of about randomness by actually understanding the tech that you're building so deep. So that's when I started, as I mentioned, I started reinforcement learning. I was trained in this space by Professor Shalabh Bhatnagar, a well-known name in the reinforcement learning space, from IIT Bangalore, professor in IIT Bangalore. So that really helped me to not look at the problem at the surface level. You go deep and deep. right? Which again helped me in the next job, which is in autonomous driving cars, where I'm working in Ola as an personal learning engineer too. So there as well, I was taking really solving one simple problem, but at a pace and at a elegance that no one else could do. So initially, stay focused on a problem. Stay focused with one technology and become an expert in that. So you need to be master of one for sure, if not jack of all.
Yeah.
But one thing I regret is, of course, I should have worked up a lot of domain expertise in this journey initially, which I realized little later, and then I started picking some domain expertise as well. In this new Gen AI world, you need to have a lot of domain expertise. Otherwise, it's easier to fail without domain expertise. So that's another point that I regret in this journey.
Sure. Thanks for sharing those experiences. So you have built and scaled AI products at various stages of your career, right? Can you also tell us your journey about, like, you have already spoke about reinforcement learning.ai. Can you also talk about Blue Avenir and now Framewise.ai? Like, what kind of problem, these three different problems you were trying to solve at different times?
Yes. Again, it's a failed startup. It's a failed startup in terms of the scalability that I want to achieve. So initially, reinforcement.ai is an idea where I help companies and of course also the students have a personalized course based on their learning rate, based on their space at which they learn, and based on their evaluations and so on. Right. So I started in 22. I was already got bored by the corporate setup. So I started my own in this company, and I went around. I tried to pitch to different companies, different VCs about this product. I had only very initial success, but not really a huge success. Again, I'm good at making MVP, so I made MVP, went to the market. I see how it works, right? So there, and also this is a time when all these edtech startups are already facing the heat,
Yeah.
right? So COVID is slowly coming down, and then people are again going back to the offline mode. And edtech startup in edtech space itself is going through a very bad phase at then. So again, it's a edtech product which I've built using AI. Which didn't do really well, but then through these connections, I started going around for corporate trainings, consultancy. I started working on consultancy projects in this AI space, especially in the reinforcement learning space. But one, as I mentioned, being good at one thing really helps you is because of my expertise in reinforcement learning, which not a lot of people around the world have picked it up. I was able to, if someone is looking for an expert in RL, it would be the one of the few people who would be shown to them via different LinkedIn or any other. So that's why you need to position yourself as an expert in that space. And I also wrote a lot of blogs in that space. So that really helped me in terms of visibility. I published close to 50 blogs in the space of AI and especially reinforcement learning, whether it is research, whether it is summarizing, whether it is, but these those days when ChatGPT wasn't there. So writing blog is a thing, right?
Yes.
Because of this exposure, I was people from across the world kind of started reach out to me for the consultancy and so on, right? So that's when I came across, that's when Blue Avenir in Germany came across my profile and then reached out to me. And then that's when I started working on their problems as in the capacity of a consultant. So after working for 6 months, solving some of the problems in the CRM space, that's when I got exposed. I moved from EdTech to CRM space, customer relationship management platforms and lead management, lead generation platforms. Then that's when I started, I kind of realized that I need to now become a domain expert in whatever space I'm working on. So I started understanding CRM space in detail, while working with my German clients. And slowly I also moved to Germany and as the capacity of one of the first few founding technical team members, because we thought that the tool that we are building is very interesting and it's exciting. And after ChatGPT and everything came, we kind of pivoted a bit, started our own product in Germany for lead discovery. For a year or so, we built our product. We iterated the product much faster again, given the MVP speed at which I can develop MVPs. I already put the MVP out, started testing. We have seen the initial validation in the customer with our early customers. So we iterated, we built a nice product around it, and it is doing quite well today, right? So again, the speed at which I can develop MVPs came in advantage. And because of my understanding, my domain expertise that I've tried to improve in the CRM space, I was able to get ideas, that I was able to observe the white spaces, problems that need solution. So that's how we started developing our own products. It's a small team of 6 members. So I was one of the few technical people in the company. And later, after a few months, a few years there, I've decided that it's time for me to move back, do something in India, do something from India to the world. So these are the thoughts that came back, especially someone who got educated with using highly subsidized college in IITs and all, where college fees, everything is subsidized. So my consciousness kind of kicked in. I thought I need to come back to India and solve problems here. So that's when the Framewise idea, I picked up the idea of Framewise. So yeah, I'll pause here and
Sure. So since, like, you have started with different ideas and all those things, and you have worked with Germany, then definitely your thought process came to start something from India and solve the problem from India. So how did you thought of doing something in HR tech space, right? Like, and what kind of problem you have seen? Let's say there are many startup founders who wanted to do something. There are many people, not general employees, who want to become an entrepreneur. For them, finding the idea is also a challenge, right?
Yes.
So how did you identify the idea, and why do you thought that this idea is something great and I should build a company around this idea?
Yes. So one way to recognize problems in the market or in the space is, one, you need to have an understanding of the general market. Like, you need to, if you're a technical person, of course you're not a domain expert, you need to be in touch with your users as much as possible, right? And initially you shouldn't focus on big problems. You should focus on a small single problem in an entire space. And you know that the single problem is small today, but then if you solve this, then the entire process would be much more streamlined. You need to find that one single problem which would solve better than any other in the market. So, and there are few indications. The problem needs to be not just if you solve it, but there'll be on the other side, people would be ready to pay for it, right? You need to see if the people's willingness to pay. You need to also see that if you're solving this problem, but it is taking too long for someone to get convinced, the sales cycles are too long, again, that's a problem, right? And also the technical adoption rates. If you're solving a problem, but then it requires you to tweak the processes in the adjacent, right? For example, in the CRM space, if you want to do anything innovative, which people have done it already, the integration becomes very important. Or customer service market integration is a very big problem, right? You need to integrate with the rest of the system. So again, the integrations will pose as a barrier. So then adoption rate will be much higher, right? So you need to look for these problems where the problem is big. So the problem is small today, but then if you solve the problem, the entire process will be streamlined and people will be ready and willing to pay for it, right? And now after being managed in this space for so long, I would say that look for a problem that is small, but because of the tailwinds, because of the rest of the macroeconomic situation, the problem will become exploded tomorrow. And if you solve that small problem today with the kind of tech, with the kind of innovation that you bring, you would be it's a very politically incorrect word, but you would almost be like a monopoly, right? So no one else would do it much better than you because you have been with this problem from the time when it is actually very small, right? So choose the problem is very important, choosing the problem. So in my case, I started working closely with the HRs. I started working closely and I myself was recruiting for a lot of roles. And I myself have felt that there is a need for a clear need for streamlining this entire HR process. It involves a lot of back and forth communications. And then I thought that maybe because of all this new innovations that's coming in, this problem could be solved. Right, I wouldn't know exactly which problem exactly in this whole process would be interesting for a product. But then I knew that there is some space in this here where if I solve this, then and also adoption rates in HR, adoption rates is also very limited, unfortunately. So then I started sitting with the HRs. I started understanding their workflows. In fact, like sat for the whole day in the HR office, like office with the HR teams, observed day in, day out, what is their process. I observed it very closely. So that is when an interesting problem I picked up is that a lot of these talent acquisition professionals are spending extraordinary amounts of time on scheduling the calls and also doing the screening calls, right? So in this process, I not only observed that it's like a repetitive task which needs some automation, but I also observed that their lack of speed because of the humans. As humans, we can only do so much thing, right? So much, and then because of this limited speed, purely, of course, not pointing fingers, but purely because of our humans, we can't spend 84 hours in a single day. We have only 24 hours a day, right? So because of this thing, the good candidates are recruiters are losing a good candidate because good candidates have less patience.
Yeah.
They need to be part of the process very early in the recruitment. Right? If you have a good candidate, if I'm a good candidate and if I'm looking for a job, if I apply, I would expect the reply would come in like next 1-2 days because I have several other things in my hand right now. Right? So losing this good candidate is also an issue. That's when I started picking up the problem. I validated by talking to multiple people, like close to 100 HR and recruiters, talked to them, understood the problem. And luckily, my co-founder is also an HR executive. She worked in HR space for a very long time, very passionate about HR, right? So all these things kind of prompted me towards working in the HR space, especially in the early stages of the HR recruitment process. So that was the motivation towards such invest.
Yes. So another thing which I have learned while building the community, right? So definitely building the community is similar to building a startup as well, right? So when you are building a startup, finding a co-founder is very important, right? And finding a right mindset person which is aligned to the goal or the idea is also very important, right? Otherwise, like this, if both are on a different direction, it might not solve the problem only, right? So
Yes.
how did you find your co-founder? First question is there. And before you find your co-founder, did you have the idea, or after spending much time with your co-founder and other HR, you then had the idea?
Right. I must say I was very lucky in this situation because I knew that I need to have a co-founder who has been working in the HR space, especially in the recruitment space, because this space requires so much of knowledge of the entire process, so much of things. I call it tribal knowledge, right? Things that you would only know if you've been in this space for so long, right? Unlike technology, you can just go and refer to a couple of blogs and a couple of YouTube videos. You will learn stuff, but not unlike this tech, HR is very different, which is true for many other industries, domain-specific industries as well, right? I knew that I need to get in touch, onboard a person who has deep interest in recruitment, if not fully working in recruitment, right? That was my idea. But luckily, I started working with some of my clients, some of my customers, and one of my customer herself is also an entrepreneur. She also started a company to help startups and SMBs to set up their HR processes. So she started using my tool to help her clients to close the roles faster.
Okay.
She has seen some initial success there. Once she's seen the success, she figured out it's a great thing. The product worked amazing for her and for her clients. And if she, almost like a talent agency, took a great value from it, why not jump into the ship and then start delivering value to a lot of other staffing agencies? So I think it is one of the very few occurrences where client turned into a co-founder. In my case, the client turned into a co-founder. So, and I also know her before as well. She worked in my brother's company as a head of HR. So I kind of knew her before as well.
Okay.
But I think I was very lucky. But usually, in general, if you're looking for clients, if you're looking for co-founder, always look for someone who has a complementary skills. One. Second thing is, if you are not deeply connected to the problem, at least the other person has to be very connected to the problem, very empathized with the problem, because at the end of the day, we are not here to just make money. We are here to make an impact.
Yeah.
So that someone who is married to that impact, someone who is married to the problem should be with you. If you're a technical person, or if you're married to the problem, you need to have someone married to the tech and scalability. Right?
Yes.
And the third thing is the founder mindset. You need to hustle. You need to go around and hustle. And she already has that. My co-founder already has that hustling mindset because she was also a startup. So you need to have someone who hustles.
Know and understand.
Yeah, who can understand the market and how the sales cycles work and so on.
Yes.
So these are the usual. This is what makes finding a co-founder harder because people doesn't tend to have this all the time.
Yes. Totally agree. Thanks for sharing that. It's very interesting point. I would say we should not have co-founder who have similar skill. We should have a complementary skills for both the co-founder, which is definitely correct. One thing while you are answering, one thing which you have mentioned that in technical side you have lots of different blogs, right? where people can go and read and study as well. But HR or in recruitment itself, we have lots of diverse processes, right? There is no blocks or no document in place, right? And because of that, I am recruiter is kind of born as well to create a platform where we can club everyone in one platform from all the different industry, different sector, and we can have some sets of processes, document, discussion in one single platform. Right. So this is one of the ideas of how why we are also building I am a recruiter community. And that is also motivated by all the developer community. We have seen how developer community are growing by learning together, sharing their knowledge and experiences, which is not happening in HR. I would say still it's happening, but in talent acquisition specifically, it's not happening.
I fully agree there because when I was doing my own research, finding different things in the around the HR processes, there is not even a single repository where I could find everything in one place, right?
Yes.
Or at least the lead acquisition space, right? You would find a lot of blogs in one singular place where you could just refer to all of this blog or read it through. But which is, especially as you mentioned, talent acquisition, it's even harder. There is until and unless if my co-founder tells me this, I wouldn't even understand because the space is the community is informal so far. And I think the value of I am recruiter would be very specific to recruiters. Yeah, I think the whole community would take a huge benefit from this.
We are just trying to learn and do things around and see. And we started in February in general. And from February, we tried to connect with people, did a couple of peer meetups in different places, did a couple of podcasts as well, panel discussion as well, so that we can bring together people in one platform. Now, once we had those kind of people around, we are now thinking in from technical perspective.
Yes.
The reason why I asked you regarding the co-founder as well is because if we want to build a community, definitely we need someone who know the technical perspective, who can understand from technical angle, right? We can have the idea, but definitely there should be someone who can connect with that purpose, that problem, and build around something as well. Okay, so we are almost on a time, but I just have two more questions, right?
Yes.
Let's say you are definitely solving one of the very good problem. I would say as a recruiter, I myself, let's say, need to hire 10 people also. I need to source multiple candidates, right? Definitely, I believe that Framewise will help people to save lots and lots of time. So to all the community members and anyone who is watching these videos, feel free to reach out to Kowshik. He's available in LinkedIn. So post our discussion, we'll try to, whenever we are posting this video, we'll share the company's profile as well as Kowshik LinkedIn profile as well. So feel free to reach out to him. He's a great guy. And definitely, I have spoken to him multiple times. He's definitely a very friendly and outspoken person. You have seen how he have talked about all the things, positive, negative, being failure as well. He was comfortable in all the aspect, right? So he's a great guy to connect with. Feel free to connect. So with the rest of time, last two questions, Kowshik, as an entrepreneur and an AI expert, what advice do you have for the startup founders, particularly someone who is building in tech and recruitment space?
So one thing is that in the space, if you're talking specific to the recruitment space, see, AI is now kind of commoditized. People can develop AI without a deep expertise in AI these days, right? And especially if you're working in recruitment, this is specific to recruitment. The advice is specific to recruitment is that you need to find that moat, right? Moat is something that would not allow your competitors to copy your product, to quickly say your product, mimic or ape your product, and that way you won't be able to build a scalable businesses. The only way you could build tech or AI products in the recruitment is to find that small problem in this space, build innovation around it, see how you can solve it using innovation, and then try to find those moats. For example, in our case, we are working on the screening, we are working on, but we plan to have a full stack product very soon from end to end, pretty much full stack product. Some of the modes that we can do where rest of the other people can't do is, for example, being a co-founder is a CHR. She worked in the HR space. She has much more connections than any other non-HR counterpart. Right. So that's a mode where she has much connections and she can reach to the market much faster. The second thing would be like, we are also solving for ethical and data protection AI stuff as well, so that we'll get certifications that would take a little longer time today. But then once we have the certifications, it's much harder for a competitor to get a certification and also reach us. Right. So that's a mode where you kind of protect yourselves. Right. And also pure innovation. Being a technical guy, you need to have in the voice agents or in the space of AI, it's only that small extra accuracy which will make a POC to a 1 million users product. That one extra small 1%, 0.5% accuracy increase or value metrics increase is what matters. Keep innovating. Don't settle with suboptimal results. Keep innovating and reach kind of accuracy where the other competitors would find it much harder to reach that accuracy. So keep these three things. One, have a strong domain presence. Two, have a good distribution channels, good distribution network. Three, have a very strong product innovation in place. So I think this is specific to HR space because HR space is now getting flooded by a lot of AI products.
Yes. Thank you, Kowshik, for your suggestion. And last one, feedback. Finally, any special tips for our recruiters who are using technology effectively or understanding AI? Because AI adoption, specifically in recruitment, is you have been in the market for some time. It's very difficult. Still, people are trying to learn. But again, like leaders or let's say budget or let's say something, it's very difficult. But as a recruiter, what are the different things they can do? Any tips for them?
One thing I can tell, AI will never replace a recruiter or any human. But a recruiter with AI will replace recruiter without AI. So that's the new game. Whether we like it or not, it's going to happen. So in order to stay ahead of the curve in this space, and everyone will be facing this issue. As a developer, I thought that I'm building tools to replace others, but I'm the first guy to be replaced by AI. So it's like I'm sitting on the branch and I'm cutting the branch I'm sitting on, right? So it's like that. So every single person's job will be threatened if they don't adopt AI. And it's not like AI will replace. Recently, the NVIDIA founder also mentioned the same thing. AI won't replace the entire process, but AI will do specific things in the process, in the recruitment process, much better than 50 times better than in human. Right? It's because AI can scale. Human only have 24 hours, but AI has like infinite hours in a day. So AI can scale, and that's why keep learning, keep understanding these new technologies, keep learning them, and adopt. If you don't adopt, people who adopt will just come and replace you.
Yes.
Right? So that's a simple example. I was one of our clients, Sibon Technologies, is they were doing exceptionally well in their staffing process, exceptionally well with our tool. So in a week, how many interviews like HR can do? How many screening interviews an HR can do? But our Sibon Technologies in the last 1 week itself, they have done close to 100 interviews. So basically, it's 30 minutes each. So 50 hours of the time is now taken away from there. Right? If they want to do 100 interviews, right? Now it can do 1,000 interviews. It can do 10,000 interviews in the same week. It's the new change.
Sure. Thank you so much. I know we are on the time. So with this, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for sharing insights about your journey, about the product you have been building, and definitely looking forward to have you on our show in future, where you can probably demo how to use Framewise as a tool or as a product as well, right? And how it can help our recruiters spend life. Like you have told, right? If someone is adopting the AI, it's much easier, right? So it's, as a recruiter, we have to learn different tools and services and all those things. So thank you once again for sharing your time, and really it was an interesting discussion. Looking forward and connecting with you in future.
Thank you very much, Prabhupada. Thank you for having me, and great questions and great insights from you as well. And I'm looking forward to have more and more discussions with the community. And also, thanks for making me part of the Recruiter community. I'd love to see what others are thinking about AI recruitment, and I'll also try to contribute my from technical and AI side to the community. And thank you very much for having me again.
Sure.